I often talk about the error that people make in the wellness space when they talk about looking for a root cause. There is never just one root cause, there are root causes. But there is a granddaddy of all root causes, and that is the gut. And we're going to dive deep into the gut and all the different imbalances that we can find there today on the DocMo Show. When most of us think about the gut, we often think about bloating, acid reflux, diarrhea, constipation, all the symptoms that happen from an unhealthy, unbalanced stomach and intestinal tract. However, gut issues can manifest in so many other ways. And that's what I really want to dive into today, because if your gut is out of balance, we're often struggling with chronic fatigue, exhaustion, brain fog, anxiety, other symptoms that we don't really understand where it's coming from. And so we're going to talk about how a lot of those issues relate to gut imbalances on this episode of today's podcast. I would say this is one of the most common things that I hear from clients, because most people who come and see me in my private practice will say, "Hey doc, I'm eating clean, I'm working out all the time, doing all the right things, trying to meditate and relax, and I am still not getting the results that I'm looking for with my health. What is going on? My weight's not coming down. I still feel completely tired. I'm taking all these supplements. What am I doing wrong?" And many people have even seen other wellness practitioners and still haven't gotten results. People who put them on dozens of different supplements or check a few tests and then leave you on supplements for a long, long time. And that is not necessarily the right approach. And so the main roles that we want our gut to do when it comes to its job in the body is to, one, digest our nutrients, and so that our body can, number two, absorb our nutrients. And so when I'm looking at the gut, I'm looking at different aspects of how it functions to make sure that digestion and absorption are functioning the way they should. Hence why I'm called a functional medicine doctor. A lot of people are called functional medicine, but they don't really get down to what the real function is. And I don't understand, how they haven't put all these different pieces together. But part of this is to empower you to know what to look for if you're dealing with a practitioner. At the end of the day, if it's not working out, you can always give me a call. I'm always here. I talk to anybody for free. And so getting the results that we really want at the end of the day requires putting a lot of different pieces together. And the gut is just one of those areas, but it's a very important area that we want to get right before we can fix anything else. It's like the gut is the first domino in all the other issues and imbalances that are happening in the body. And that's why we really want to focus on this and get this good and healthy and restored so that our body can really have what it needs to start to heal itself. There's a lot that we can do. There's a lot of supplements you can take, a lot of choices that you have when it comes to diet and clean eating, a lot of lifestyle changes you can make. But really, basically, almost none of it works unless we get the gut right. And that's why I wanted to really focus in and dig down on this today. So the first thing that I want us to look at together is, what are these symptoms that can point us to a gut issue? Because I think that's what a lot of people want to know is like, is my gut having a problem? Now, recently, a lot of people have heard about the gut-brain connection and these sorts of things. And so some people are aware that if you are having symptoms, especially neurological symptoms, mood symptoms, things like that, that can be a sign of a gut issue. Now, the common, most basic gut problems that we would think of are bloating, acid reflux, diarrhea, constipation, feeling full after you eat, or feeling like you can't eat too much. You can eat a little bit, but then you feel really full really fast. And that's part of gut and digestive issues. Now, what we see in the gut are a couple of problems that happen that kind of lead to this domino effect of other problems that happen in the body. And so, beyond the bloating and all those stomach and gut issues that we can get, there are other symptoms that can really be a red flag that something is off with the gut. Feeling exhausted, tired no matter what. Now, a lot of different things can cause fatigue, chronic fatigue, exhaustion, feeling tired. Is it an emotional or psychological type tired? Is it physical, like you're not eating enough? So different things can cause you to feel tired. But, I just did want to mention that the gut and those gut problems, if you're not digesting and absorbing, then that can definitely cause you to feel tired, because it's our food and our nutrients that give the cells the ingredients they need to produce energy. And if we are not digesting and absorbing, then that can create that type of imbalance where your cells aren't getting what they need to actually create energy in the body. And the same thing, if your body isn't absorbing vitamins and nutrients and cofactors, then it also needs those things in the metabolic processes in order to produce energy. That's the job of the cells, is to produce energy. Each one has to produce its own energy. And so if we are low on energy all the time, which is what I see very often from high achieving people, is we're tired. We work a lot. We're putting out, it's always output, 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 and doing and being responsible for our teams and for other people and for ourselves, and being the leader and the one who has to come up with all the solutions. But if your body isn't supporting you because your gut isn't digesting, then it creates these type of imbalances that we start to see, and that can lead to fatigue. Other symptoms that I see with gut imbalances that are not, directly related to the gut: struggling with focus or brain fog, can't concentrate, those sorts of things. And that's really for a similar reason, because without those kind of raw ingredients from our nutrients, then our body doesn't have what it needs to create certain hormones that give us energy and that give us focus. It doesn't have what it needs to create neurotransmitters, because that digestive process is not working efficiently. And yes, there are ways to correct and fix this. We're going to talk about that later on, what to do about those things. But, this is just to know what else can happen when your gut is not processing. And again, over the last 14 years, I have seen thousands of clients in my private practice, and no two have the same gut imbalances. And I would say no one has come in with like a perfect gut. So even if you don't have the bloating, diarrhea, constipation, acid reflux, all those common symptoms of gut issues, everybody's coming in for something. And if you don't have those symptoms, I still check the gut on everyone, and I've never seen anyone come in with just a perfectly healthy gut. There's always something out of balance in all of us. It's just the lifestyle that we're living, the society that we're in, the demands that we're putting on ourselves is creating these imbalances, and we need to get those fixed in order to really feel our best and in our optimal health. Other issues that I see with gut imbalances are things like allergies, food allergies, not being able to tolerate certain foods. And that can look like different things. It can look like joint pain. It can look like headaches that happen frequently. I see regular allergies like congestion, nasal congestion, runny nose, stuffy ears, sneezing, cough, phlegm, those type of symptoms. If I'm seeing anybody with allergies, the number one issue that I'm thinking as far as a root cause imbalance is something is off in the gut. There are studies that have been out since the 1920s about the relationship of the gut and asthma. And so, people who are dealing with respiratory issues, think about the gut. I want to know how well, again, is that digestion and absorption. And there are different components to that. So when you think about digestion and absorption, I'm thinking about how well the body digests and absorbs the categories of nutrients, which are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And so your body needs different enzymes to do that. For proteins, it also needs acid. So the acid that our stomach creates is hydrochloric acid. And sometimes that can be replaced with other acid replacements. But ideally, our body would be producing these in the proper levels on its own. But different conditions in life can throw that balance off. And so then we get into these issues, if you've had lots of antibiotics in your life, if you've had lots of NSAIDs or pain medications in your life, these things throw the gut off. Other issues that I see when someone has a gut imbalance: difficulty losing weight. When someone is like, I'm hitting a weight plateau, I'm doing everything, I'm exercising 5, 6, 7 days a week, I barely eat anything, I watch my calories so close, I'm so careful about everything I eat, but I can't lose weight, or either I'm gaining weight, it doesn't make any sense. I am always, always, always thinking there is likely a gut imbalance. And that's because with weight, your body needs nutrients in order to lose weight. High quality nutrients. Again, it goes back to your cells needing to make and produce energy. That's the job of the cells. And if it's not getting what it needs because your body isn't effectively digesting and absorbing, then with that lack of nutrients, it revs down your metabolism. And so when we turn that metabolism down, your body will tend to go into what we call starvation mode. And so you can do that by not eating enough calories, which I see that in a lot of people too, because, there's this whole diet culture where they're like, eat less, eat less, eat less. And it's like, how much lower can you go in the amount of calories you can consume? But there's another way that happens, and that is you're eating high quality nutrients, you're eating what your body requires. However, your body is not taking that in, it's not absorbing it. And it may not be absorbing it because it's not digesting it in the first place properly, or that absorption process just isn't happening. And there are factors that we can look for very specifically in the gut to see what is going on, and we can fix that naturally so that it's fixed, so that you don't have to keep going through this cycle over and over again. Another big uncommon category that I see of imbalances when there are gut issues are hormone imbalances. Hormones like your estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. Hormones are fat-based and they come from cholesterol. We need to consume cholesterol in our diet. Our body can also make it in the liver. Our body has to have cholesterol. It is necessary for life. So cholesterol is not bad. We need it. It makes that category of hormones called steroid hormones. Cholesterol is also the first ingredient that your body needs to make vitamin D. So we need cholesterol. It's not a bad thing. It can move vitamins around the body. We need it for a lot of different processes in the body. But if for some reason the gut is not digesting and absorbing the fats well, especially cholesterol, which we can test for and see very specifically, if I'm seeing that cholesterol wasting through the body and wasting through the gut, not being absorbed, then I know that person is probably going to have hormone imbalances. If they don't already have them, they will have them in the future. Cholesterol is also the first ingredient that your body uses to make cortisol. Cortisol is one of your body's main metabolic hormones. It's not bad, cortisol is another one of those hormones that get the little villain label or villain suit out here on the internet because they're like, oh, cortisol is giving you belly fat. No, inflammation is giving you belly fat and these imbalances that we were talking about and breaking down. But cortisol, your body needs. We would not be alive without cortisol. We need cortisol. It's one of the main metabolic hormones. It wakes you up in the morning. So if you sleep all night and you wake up and you're feeling like a zombie, like walking around like, I'm not fully awake yet, that can be a telltale sign of a cortisol issue. Cortisol is our main stress hormone. We have demanding, high, intense jobs. And so stress is the name of the game for us. So we need cortisol to be functioning the way we need it to throughout the day so that our mind can be on point, so that our focus can be on point. Because when we get into cortisol imbalances, that, so I say the gut is the first domino. The next domino, usually if there are gut imbalances, is cortisol. That's the next thing I look at is the adrenals. Because the adrenals are what create your cortisol. And so if that main metabolic hormone is off, you're going to get into all sorts of symptoms, especially the fatigue. The morning fatigue, sometimes it can last throughout the day. Sometimes sleep issues can be due to cortisol. If that balance has gotten reversed, I've seen some people where their cortisol spikes up high at night. We can naturally change that imbalance to put your levels high in the morning when it's supposed to be and lower it at night. That can happen naturally, but you have to see where your levels are in the first place. And you got to know what the gut is doing. Because if it's not absorbing the fats, if it's not absorbing cholesterol, then we're going to start to see these issues with the hormones, with cortisol, with vitamins like vitamin D and other fat-soluble vitamins. We can start to see all those issues. We can even start to see B vitamin deficiencies because B vitamins are released from proteins. And if you're not digesting and absorbing proteins, sometimes we get into B vitamin issues, and then it allows your body to hold on to more toxins and you can't detox. It just creates a whole, again, domino effect that leads to all these combination of issues that we see. And then you go to your regular doctor and it's like, oh, well, I'm tired and my hair is falling out and I can't lose weight and I have acid reflux and I have anxiety and all this laundry list of things. And they're looking at you like, yeah, but I got 5 minutes. What prescription do you want today? Maybe I should just put you on an antidepressant. Maybe you should just lose weight and then all those issues will go away. But what they're never going to do is test your gut and see what's actually happening at that ground zero level. Because the gut is ground zero for your energy, your hormones, your immune system, your metabolism, your mood, your respiratory system. The gut is what does that. And one more thing I want to mention that I see when there are gut imbalances as far as the digestion and absorption issue is high cholesterol. It's tied to poor digestion and absorption because our body needs to absorb cholesterol from our food. Now, of course, we should not be eating the most highly drenched trans fats that we can find. However, we do need to be consuming healthy fats because if we don't, then our body's going to overcompensate by making its own cholesterol in the liver. And so if we're not getting enough in our diet, then a lot of times I will see that cholesterol level high in the blood. So that's one of those counterintuitive things that if we're not consuming enough, and it may not be, again, that it's not in the diet, it's just that the body is not absorbing it once we take it in. So now I want to move on to the specific issues that I look for in the gut because I feel like this is where a lot of people get into trouble areas because they think that, fits in the gut is just about probiotics or it's just about enzymes. And it's not. Yes, enzymes and probiotics are very important, but that's not the whole gut story. When I'm looking at the gut, I want to see certain things like how well is your body digesting and absorbing your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, because all of those are necessary. And yeah, we can get ourselves into some pretty bad issues by doing extreme dieting, where we're cutting out full food groups out of our diet and just focusing on one or few areas, especially the carnivore and ketos and all those things. Those are very time limited type diets, and people who stay on those can get into some really significant gut imbalances because our bodies do need carbohydrates. The probiotics need carbohydrates in order to survive and thrive. So if we're cutting out all carbs, like, why would you do that? And they will be, to me, like within a few months. Oh, my gut is having all these problems. I have this reflux I can't get rid of. I'm having burning. I'm having, candida. I'm having bloating. I'm not sure why. I just can't get rid of it. Yeah, what did you do? You cut out all carbs, and now your probiotics are wiped out. And so we need to start restoring those things. So yeah, I don't believe in extreme dieting. If you're doing it for a specific purpose, for a specific amount of time, then okay, it might be appropriate for whatever you're trying to use it for. But everyone has a very specific purpose. It's not just, I'm just going to do this diet and that's that. No. And so when I'm looking at someone's specific gut results, yes, I am looking at, what are your stomach acid levels like? What are your enzyme levels like? Where are your fat levels, your protein levels, your carbohydrate levels? Because that's going to help me determine the type of enzymes your body needs. And so I do not believe in just taking random supplements, because your body has very specific imbalances it is dealing with. And some people, especially practitioners, will just be like, oh, this is for the gut. It works. Works for who? In what circumstance? Under what conditions? For what issue is that supplement for? Each thing has to be for something very specific. And really, the only and main way to figure out those specifics is to test. And so if someone is having low stomach acid, low enzymes, I can see issues with the protein, with the fats, with the carbohydrates. And like I said, it's a domino effect. So there's never just one thing that's out of balance in the gut. So if it's a carbohydrate problem, then I'm going to see problems with the probiotics. If it's a stomach acid problem, I'll see problems with the protein, possibly with thyroid hormones, possibly with wrinkles, possibly with varicose veins, because your proteins have to go to those areas. That's where collagen is used in those vessels and that sort of thing, and in your skin to prevent those wrinkles and that sort of thing. And it can lead to some pretty significant issues over time. If you're someone who's working out and you're not making the expected gains in the gym, a lot of times that can be digestive issues. And so you want to know the details about what's happening in your gut so you can address that head on. Proteins are necessary to make thyroid hormone. So if we're getting the thyroid imbalances, then I want to know what the gut is to see, are you digesting and absorbing proteins properly for neurotransmitter balance and for your body to make neurotransmitters. Most of those neurotransmitters are protein based. And this is a reason why some people feel so good when they start a keto or carnivore diet. It's because all that protein is allowing your body to make more neurotransmitters. It's making that serotonin and dopamine, those feel good chemical messengers that give your body that sensation of feeling satisfied and happy and just content and good. So yeah, they do feel really good for a while until it screws up the balance in the gut, and then those carbs that are necessary for the probiotics to keep the rest of the balance going then gets out of whack, because it's kind of like a seesaw. Yes, the proteins are going to help some things for a while and those healthy fats, but the carbohydrates are necessary too. We can't just ignore those. And so I've mentioned probiotics a few times already. Yeah, I want to know where your probiotic levels are. So many people want to just take a probiotic. And I would say that a lot of what people decide to use is just based on marketing, packaging. Oh, it looks good. It looks cool. Oh, they made a video about it. Oh, the people in the video seem like they're living the lifestyle that I want to live. This is the enzyme. This is the probiotic I'm going to use. That has nothing to do with how it will work in your body. The only thing that will determine how it works for you and if it works well is if it is what your body needs. And the only way to know that is if you do the test. And this is important because there are a lot of enzymes out there on the market to choose from. There are also lots of probiotics, thousands and thousands of these things. So how do you know what to choose? The only way is to know precisely what is happening in your body, and then you can target those things very specifically. Enzymes, they will digest certain types of nutrients. So you need to know, do you have a protein problem? Do you have a fat digestion and absorption problem? Do you have a carbohydrate digestion and absorption problem? We need to know specifically what the issue is. And most people have a combination of these different things. Plus, we add on the probiotics. How do you know which one to take? How do you know what dosage to give? It's not just a random thing about picking, oh, it's a cute little bottle. Oh, I saw somebody taking it on the internet. They said they got better. Their gut is not your gut. You have to know what's going on inside of you. There are multiple different probiotics, and so we want to know what your specific imbalance is. And certain probiotics have certain jobs. Lactobacillus has certain jobs in the gut. Bifidobacterium has certain jobs in the gut. Which one is low for you? Is it both? Is it neither? Do we need to replace something else? These are the questions that we need to be answering in order to figure out exactly what to do to get the gut balanced naturally and to get other things in the body balanced, like thyroid, like hormones, like the neurotransmitters, your chemical messengers, your cortisol, so that you can wake up with energy, so that your brain and mind can be focused and that you can do all the tasks that you want to do and live the type of life you want to live. That's the key to it. It's figuring these things out very specifically and doing what your body needs. Neither one of us has the same lifestyle. We don't have the same body, the same biochemistry. It's different for everybody. And so we have to really dig into that personalized and individualized plan that's going to work for us. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels, wasting time. I've seen people who have wasted years, decades, just trying things, going to doctor after doctor and getting absolutely no answers, getting nowhere because they're trying random things or not testing. Another thing that I commonly look for is inflammation in the gut. I run one of the most comprehensive gut tests on the market. So it's looking for all of these different things that I'm mentioning. And inflammation is one of those things that I look at because it's going to help me know, is toxicity an issue in your gut? Are you having irritable bowel disease? Are you having food allergies potentially? Are you even having leaky gut? These are the things that those inflammatory markers can start to tell us about the gut. And yes, your probiotics, that's what we call your microbiome. The gut also makes other enzymes that help your body to metabolize hormones. So if your body is holding on to or not getting rid of hormones at the right balance or at the right pace, and your body is kind of building up the bad hormones, holding on to too much estrogen, getting you into estrogen dominance or things like that, getting you into PCOS, getting you into like these issues where you're growing hair, your body's having too much testosterone. Certain enzymes in the gut need to be produced to help your body metabolize and get rid of excess hormones to, again, keep that hormone balance going. So that's another way the gut helps to balance and maintain the hormone balance in the body. Another thing that I commonly look for in the gut is dysbiosis. And so just like we have good bacteria in the gut called the probiotics, and we also need prebiotics, which the test looks for those too. Do your good bacteria have enough to eat? But dysbiosis means an imbalance. And so that's the imbalance between the good and the bad. So sometimes we can have not enough of the good bacteria or probiotics, or sometimes we can have too much or overgrowth of the bad. And that can create an issue. And a lot of times, those bad bacteria are what we call opportunistic bacteria. They are sitting there waiting for anything to happen, for your immune system to take a hit, either from the flu or from a car accident or from surgery or something like that. And so a lot of those bacteria are kind of sitting there waiting for an opportunity to spread somewhere else in the body and start to create an issue. Things like pneumonia or urinary infections, even blood infections. So some people can get some serious illnesses and sicknesses from bacteria that are just kind of hanging out in your gut because of the imbalances that are happening. And all of this works together. So if those good bacteria don't have enough to eat, a lot of times those probiotics, if you have enough, that creates a good, healthy environment in the gut to keep the bad ones out. And so if the diet is out of balance, if those healthy bacteria are out of balance, if your body isn't digesting because it's not having enough enzymes or acid for whatever reason, then it creates this domino effect where it's creating all these different imbalances that are happening at the same time. And so that is something that we truly want to look for to see if there's an overgrowth of the bad bacteria. And we can address those things naturally. It does not have to be with antibiotics, because a lot of what we find on these tests are resistant to antibiotics. And so if we're given antibiotics, then it can create more resistance. And, let me just mention as a side note, a big way that we're getting exposed to antibiotics are in the food, the meat, the milk, things that have been treated with antibiotics. And so this is what we want to do: antibiotic free, hormone free, steroid free dairy and meats, to start to avoid those type of effects that can happen on the body. And while I'm thinking about that, just a side note on GMO foods, because they are treating these foods with like Roundup Ready type pesticides, and those pesticides are designed to get rid of organisms and bacteria that can grow on the plants, but those can also have a negative effect on our microbiome, the healthy bacteria that are in our gut. And so we want to avoid GMO foods, especially the corn and the soys and those sorts of things. And so we have to start to look at labels and pay attention and avoid those things. And I know some people do, but I want to mention it because not everyone does. And it can create a huge, huge impact in your body. And at the end of the day, we have to start to become our own advocate to get the results that we want to get, and not fall victim to feeling terrible from now on. Because the mainstream system is not looking for these things. They're not going to take the time that we just spent here. They're not doing that. They're not looking for these type of imbalances. A lot of this we can control ourselves. A lot of this you can correct naturally, but we've got to have this information in order to get to that place to heal and get well. So along with the bad bacteria that we look for, I also look for yeast and fungus overgrowth. So, a lot of people in the wellness space and online are big into candida and candida cleanses and things like that. But usually they are basing that just on symptoms. A lot of different imbalances can cause the exact same symptoms. What makes you think that is candida unless you test and get a positive test for candida? There are multiple different types of yeast. And so I've had so many people come in saying, hey, I need to be treated for candida. We run the test, and guess what? They don't have candida. Some people do, but not everybody. There are different types of yeast that can cause the exact same symptoms. Even bacteria overgrowth can cause the exact same symptoms. So you've got to address and treat precisely what's going on in your body, not just guessing because someone said, oh, these symptoms, bloating and itching and rashes and all these different things mean candida. Now, it could, but it's not specific to candida. So I do check for the different types of yeast. And so I remember one incident where, this lady had been doing a candida protocol over and over and over for like a year or a year and a half, something like that. It was crazy. And she wasn't really getting results, wasn't getting better. We tested her. She did have yeast. It was not candida. Two other types. I think rhodotorula and some other type, which I can't remember right now. But when we run the test, it will give us the details about what to do for it, what natural supplements will work for it. This is why we test, so that we can get that information and not waste time going in circles trying things that are never going to work. Figure out what's going on in your body and you can get to that solution fast. Like, it doesn't take a long time. You can get straight to the issue, straight to the solution. That's what I'm about. Solutions and results at the end of the day. We work hard. We need some answers once and for all to fix the issue and move on. Who wants to be doing this for months and years and feeling that discomfort at the same time and feeling the frustration and going through taking this after this after that and appointment after appointment and still not seeing any results? That's not a life that anybody's signing up for. And after all of this talk and discussion, I do, on the test, check for parasites. That is one of the categories that the test does look at and check for. And, there's all this internet talk about parasites these days. And to me, it's questionable because, you're saying parasites as a group, but that's like saying bacteria or people. It's like, well, which ones? Because there are so many different categories of parasites, or dogs or something. There are so many different types. It's like, but what type of dog are you talking about? There are so many different types. There are so many different types of bacteria. Which ones? Parasites have names. And so, you don't just treat a parasite. It's like, are we treating amoeba? Are we treating cysts, blastocysts? Are we treating worms? Are we treating, what is it? So we want to know exactly. And those are categories. And each one of those categories have specific types under that. So parasites can be tested for. Parasites can be identified. Parasites can be treated depending on what exactly it is. So what do you mean a parasite cleanse? What do you mean you're just taking some supplement that can damage your liver for parasites? I don't understand. Where are these things at? Let's test for it, see what it is. And it does come up. I've had 2 test results in the past week that have come positive. It's not like it never shows up. It does from time to time. But, when it does, now I can treat that very specifically and appropriately, sometimes even naturally, that's not going to cause a lot of damage to the body, to help you start feeling better. So that's the comprehensive approach that works, that gets results, that doesn't have you spinning your wheels for months and years trying to figure things out, just randomly guessing what to do. So when I'm doing gut testing, those are the things that I'm looking for. I have added a gut balance cheat sheet to the description. So you just click the link to grab that cheat sheet to figure out what are all these things that we need to be looking for when you want to establish a good fundamental gut balance. What are all those things I mentioned? Because if they're just doing an organic acids test, if they're just doing a GI map, that is not going to give you all the information that I just mentioned that you need to know in order to truly balance your gut. And I've even seen practitioners run the comprehensive test that I'm talking about, and they don't understand what they're looking at, so they don't know what to tell you to do to fix everything that's on there. So there's a little bit of figuring out who the right practitioner is to go to who actually knows how to address all of these different issues. Some people do run the correct test, but if they don't know how to interpret it, that doesn't help you still at the end of the day. So getting with someone who truly knows how to address all these gut issues, and again, call my office, reach out. Let's start with a conversation to see what is happening. I always do free calls. Always have, ever since I started my practice. It's been a thing that I always do. But what you can do right now today is definitely start with that cheat sheet. It will help get you started to know where to go, what questions to ask when you're trying to get your gut in balance. Now let's talk about the things that we can actually do and control to improve your gut naturally. And I would say the first thing does start with foods. If we know that we're having food triggers, inflammatory foods, or things that are causing food allergies or food sensitivities, eliminate those. Eliminate them fast, because if we know that it's causing a problem, that it's having a bad reaction, then avoid that. Sometimes you can reintroduce foods later down the road. That can be a whole nother show by itself, but we don't want to keep the triggers going. And so there are specific ways to do that. We talk about that in my membership group, how to do an elimination diet and those sorts of things. That's something that we can talk about another day. And there are certain foods that can help. High probiotic foods, fermented foods. We want to start to incorporate those sorts of things into our diet. Avoiding extreme diets or diets that eliminate entire categories of foods. The diets that I recommend have every type of food incorporated to get your body all the different types of nutrients and vitamins and food categories that it needs for balance. It's the imbalances that are creating the issues, and so we want to avoid that. I do not recommend carnivore or keto. If it's for a short term, for a very specific purpose, for someone who's more than 50 pounds overweight, yes, it can be effective, but it is not a long-term eating plan. As I'm sure we all know, we want to get plenty of vegetables, plenty of fruits. That's going to help certain enzymes in our gut, especially the enzymes that help with hormone balance. It's going to help us get enough fiber. We want to get enough resistant starches. That's another category of carbohydrates that we want to have in our diet. Those are things like beans, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, potatoes like our red potatoes, sweet potatoes, bananas, more on the greener side that are going to yellow. These type of foods help to give our body the starches and even fibers that we need, but the starches that our healthy bacteria live and feed on. Even rice is in that category. Brown rice, wild rice, black rice. That's in that category. And then if you think you need supplements, if you've been dealing with gut symptoms for a long time or those other things, difficulty with weight loss, low energy for 3 months, 6 months, longer, brain fog, fatigue, any of those things that have been going on, you want to test to see if you have these different imbalances. That will help us to know what supplements to use. Otherwise, I don't really recommend a whole lot of supplements for the gut. There are a few that we can go to, but they're not going to be very specific for these different issues that are going on. Some of them can be beneficial, but again, in a very non-specific and supportive type of way, but not in a very targeted way to fix any issues that are specifically going on in your gut. And so when you want to know about probiotics, about enzymes, I only recommend those things once I have actual results of a gut test. And gut test is a stool test. It's a kit that we have sent out to your house You collect your sample, send it to the lab sends the results to me, and then we go over those results together to know exactly what to do for your gut. That's how that process works. If there's overgrowth of bacteria or fungus and yeast and things like that, then we create a specific natural protocol for those exact things. It's not just a candida cleanse or something like that. That a lot of times won't work. And then some people will cut out, so for a yeast cleanse or something like that, I will recommend cutting out carbs, but not long term because, again, we need the carbs. But if that doesn't work, then we're going to have to get down to the test and see specifically what's going on to create that targeted protocol to get rid of whatever's there. And so that's how we start to build a comprehensive approach for the gut. And how long does it take the gut to heal? It takes most people a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to really start feeling better on their protocol. But it takes the gut about 3 to 6 months to heal to be able to start to get off those supplements. So if you've been taking supplements for 3 months, 6 months or longer, a year, 2 years, 5 years, I've had people who have been on supplements for years and years. That means you didn't fix the problem. And probably the problem wasn't fixed because you didn't actually find the problem. So I have a find and fix process. If you can find it, then you can fix it. But most people aren't testing to see what the actual issue is. And so they're kind of spinning their wheels forever and ever and never getting the results and the improvement that they're looking for. So no, we do not have to live with bloating or acid reflux or diarrhea or constipation or brain fog and low energy and anxiety and all the symptoms that we have and allergies and all those things that go with an imbalanced gut. Really, all those symptoms are signs from your body to figure out and find what the imbalance is, address it so you can get better. And no, a real transformation is not far off and far away. It's as simple as getting that test, figuring out what's out of balance, finding it, fixing it. It's that simple. And so one simple test can give you all the information that you need to get your body back in balance. If you want to know what all those things are, download my free gut balance cheat sheet in the description and the show notes, and that will help you get started as to what to do to balance your gut. If you want to have a free call with me about your gut health, that link is there too. Just reach out and I or one of my team members will talk to you one-on-one, because fixing the gut is truly that first domino. It can correct so many other things in the body. If you've been struggling with hormone balance for years, with thyroid balance for years, sometimes the gut balance is that missing key. You can feel better, look better, get your brain working better, get the energy back. All those things that's happened for myself and thousands of other clients that I have helped over the past 14 years. So yes, it's better to test, not guess. We don't want to keep doing that. And a truly balanced gut can change everything. It's an absolute game changer when your gut is better, because everything over time is going to keep getting better and better in your body. It really equips your body to have the power to heal like what it's supposed to once you get that gut fixed and in the right balance. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this episode, definitely leave me a review or share it with someone who you know needs this information. This has been Dr. Angela Mosley, and I'll see you on the next episode of the DocMo Show.